What's up, everybody? Jesse, Southern Reels Fishing, out in the shop on a pretty rainy Saturday here in North Carolina. I figured what better day to do a build video of my latest Panoptix mount for you guys. As you see, I have the mount for my boat actually off the boat right now. It's basically just an outer pipe with another smaller PVC pipe inside of it. It just slips through it. Glue on fitting at the top that's threaded, and you can change this top fitting assembly here to whatever you want it to be. Basically, this fitting here acts as the stop that stops that inside pipe from falling all the way through. And down here at the bottom, you can see that the outside pipe stops. This is the part that rotates, and you can pretty much just clamp whatever you want to right around this. And at the same time, whatever you put here keeps this pipe from sliding back up. Kind of locks it in place. So it's a really good design. I have been using it for over a year with no problems. And when I made this mount right here, my first Panoptix build for the perspective mode, I pretty much copied what Garmin did. As you can see, this is just the stock mount with the angled bracket that I put on it. And it worked. It got me out on the water and I caught some fish with it. But I did notice when I was in current that this thing's sticking out so far, especially when it was in like forward scan mode, which I use a lot, scanning structure, that current would catch it, and it just put a ton of resistance on this pole. Especially if you were trying to troll along with your big motor running or even your trolling motor running, it made it very difficult to keep it pointed where you wanted it. So I knew I had to come up with something different, which is what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to walk you guys through the build of my latest mount, which I showed in a previous video. I've gotten it out, I've tested it, and it works perfectly. So we're going to get right to it. All right, folks, so I'm using the same aluminum bar that I got from Lowe's, just flat stock, 1/8 by 1 inch by 3 foot long piece here. This will build probably 6 mounts easy. But what we're going to do is just measure it off real quick and go ahead and get it shaped and ready to go. It's actually pretty simple. It's a little more advanced than my last one because of the bending method that we have to do. Pretty much there's going to be a tab going one way, the flat portion, which will be the same width as this inside pipe right here, and then an equal length tab on the other side. Basically just a U is all it's going to be. All right, so basically I have 2 inches here, the width of the pole in the center, and then another 2 inch here below it basically, and that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this mark right here. I'm just clamping mine in a vise here. You can do it however necessary, but vise, I have it, so I'm just what I'm using. All right, there we go. So this is the whole length of the piece. Basically, this side and this side are the 2 tabs that are going to bend up, and this middle portion is going to be the flat where the transducer mounts basically. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and get it in the vise and start bending the first ear. All right, so this is the portion of the video when we actually get to bending this piece of metal that's a little more complicated than the last build. Because to get it to bend at a sharp corner like that, you have to heat it. What I use is just a little MAP gas torch like this. Now, I'm not saying you can't bend it. Sometimes you can, and it won't, it almost like tears the aluminum. I found out if you heat it up, it just seems to be a lot better. So I'm going to heat it at this point pretty hot. Basically just heat each side of it, probably for at least a good 30 seconds or so. Don't touch it because it's hot. All right, then I'm just going to take a regular hammer and just start shaping it over. And now and then I heat it up again a little bit. All right, so at that point, you just kind of take a pair of pliers. Don't grab it with your hands. It will burn the ever living crap out of you. And I have a little thing of water back here. I'll just stick it in to cool it down. All right, now I got that first bend done. As you see, it come out nice and sharp and clean. It didn't tear on the back side, which, I mean, you can try to do this without heating it, but I've definitely gotten more consistent results when you heat it. Anyway, give it a shot if you don't have a torch. But now we have to make this second bend. Basically, this is going to come up like that, and you can't just clamp it straight into vise. Well, you can, but once this bends over to a certain point, it's going to hit the vise and it's going to stop. So what I found is in my shop, I have these 2 press blocks that came with my little cheap hydraulic press, and this width here is actually about perfect for the size of the pipe. That's what I'm going to use to kind of clamp it in and elevate it to give it enough room to where this can bend all the way down without hitting the vise. If you don't have something like this, honestly, you can just use a piece of wood, like take a piece of wood and just cut it down, or a piece of 1x treated decking that you can cut to just hold it to get this last bend in. And yes, you know, it is going to burn the wood a little bit when you heat it up, but it'll last long enough to make this bend. So I'm going to clamp it up here real quick and get it set up. All right, so I got this locked in, ready to go. I'm gonna grab my torch and heat it up and bend it. Once again, probably about 30 seconds with this torch. All right, once again, pliers, grab a hold of it. And I'm gonna set it down, throw it in the water to cool it down again. Ooh, that one was hot. All right, there we go. Nice, clean U-bend, basically. And as you see, it fits around the pipe, nice and clean, nice and neat, just like it should. All right, guys, there we go. The mount is pretty much ready to be drilled and mounted at this point. It's just a U. Now there is a little bit more bend on one side. I don't know if you can see that really. It's like it angles up a little bit according to this side. Like I said, about 4 or 5 degrees here. In my last video, I got a lot of questions about that. And basically, the reason I did it is when I have this mounted to the pole like so, and I had the transducer bolted to it, when I had that pole square and the transducer was flipped down into perspective mode, and when I was looking at it, with this being flat, it's like it tilted the transducer off of horizontal, basically. If this were straight up with the pole, the transducer should be straight across horizontal. And with this part being flat, it was tilted a little bit. So I added this little bend here about 4 or 5 degrees. So when the pole was straight up and down, the elements on the transducer were horizontal, basically aligned. That's the reason I did it. Whether that would make enough difference to matter, I'm not sure. But if you're hand making it, you might as well add that little bit in just to correct that. It bugged me, so I did it anyway. So that's why I have a little bit of a, 4 or 5 degree bend here on this bottom. If even that much. It's probably maybe 3 or 4 degrees, but that's the reason. But anyway, right now we're gonna mark this and center punch it and drill it. So we'll basically have one hole in the center here in the bottom. I mean, you can pretty much eyeball that if you're comfortable. So I'll just make a mark for that. And then we're going to measure up from this bottom surface up each ear 1 inch and 3/8 and make 2 center punches there as well to be drilled. All right, so there you go. Basically, I have a mark in the center of this bottom portion, and then 1 inch and 3/8 up each side from this bottom. I've made a mark. Now, naturally, the side with the angle on it, the mark's going to be just a hair higher. Just basically, when you drill, you want to make sure you're drilling straight through this here to where it's horizontal, basically, with these ears. So the marks will be just a hair off based on this bend in the bottom. But as long as you hold this square and you just mark that across there and drill it square like that, you'll be good to go. Now, I do like to use a center punch, basically just to get an indentation to help the drill bit from wandering. So I'm going to go ahead and punch these real quick. All right, so I got these ready to go. Now, as far as the drill bits, I'll tell you the exact sizes. This bottom one, we're going to drill big enough that the stock bolt here that comes in the stock transducer mount here, this is the bolt that used to be inside here. You want to drill big enough that this little collar can pass through. And the best size I found for that is a 21/64 drill bit, 21/64. So we'll go ahead and drill that real quick. Sometimes it helps to start off with a smaller bit first to get a hole going. Even if it's center punched, it can still kind of be a pain sometimes drilling it. So I went ahead and drilled each hole with a small bit first, like an 1/8 inch or something, just to help the bigger bit kind of stay where you want it to be. All right, sometimes when you drill it, it actually leaves a little bit of shrapnel on the backside. Just take a little file, I think it's a chainsaw sharpening file. Just kind of clean that scrap metal off the back. There, nice clean hole. Now this bolt should drop right through it from the top. Yep, see, nice tight fit like so. All right, now we're gonna drill the other 2 holes. And basically, I based the size of these holes on this bolt right here. This is a nice Phillips head, stainless steel, 1/4 by 2 inch bolt. And we're gonna drill a hole big enough for that to pass through like that pretty much. And the right size for that one is a 17/64 drill bit. All right, so there we go. We got this set up to where that 1/4 pass right through it like so. Now all we gotta do is drill the hole in the mounting pipe here, that I have for my boat. And what I'm gonna do is measure 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom, make a mark. And we're gonna use that same drill bit that we just used to drill the holes through here, basically, the 17/64. And we're just gonna start in the center of the pipe and drill straight through it. All right, there you go. As you see, I basically just drilled a hole all the way through the center of the pipe here where it passes through like that on each side. So now all you got to do is just take this nylon washer here, which is the same one I used in my last mount, the stock bolt. Slip it on there like that. It'll go to the inside of this mount. And you take the little rubber washer. That's the original rubber washer out of the original mount. Once again, it used to be inside of here. Slip it on the bottom, and this is just going to bolt right to the transducer, exactly like my other mount that I did where I copied, you know, Garmin's design. Once you get that bolted up, then you're just going to take the mount, slip it on the pipe, pass the 1/4 through it by 2 inch. That's actually a nice snug fit. That's good. And then take a 1/4 stainless nylock nut. You definitely want a nylock for this, and tighten this down. How tight you tighten this bolt determines how much resistance this has when it swivels. And that's it, pretty much. You bolt your transducer to that. You know, when it's down like this, the transducer will be flat and it'll be in perspective mode. And when you tilt this up, you can turn it and it'll be in forward scan mode or down scan, depending on how you got it mounted. Now I do like to take this, I'll take some sandpaper and smooth these edges and stuff off, which I'll take it back off and do that. Round everything off, you know, make sure there's no sharp edges here, which is still kind of sharp from where it was touched. Also make sure it doesn't scratch my boat. And that's pretty much it. You're good to go. And depending on this angle here, the reason you got this little bit of angle on this top bend here is once you mount the transducer on it, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. If you hold this pole straight up or straight down, actually, you'll see that the transducer is kind of tilted one way or the other a little bit, and just kind of mount it to where it corrects that. My boat's out here, you know, put up right now, but I can kind of show you on my kayak what I'm talking about. So I'll set up over there real quick. All right, folks, to try and explain the 5 degrees a little bit better, I've come over here to my kayak. Since this one is already mounted, it's pretty much an exact copy of the one that I built for my boat. As you can see, I've got it in perspective mode right now. I just have this piece of cardboard back here just to give it some contrast so you can kind of see it better. But I pretty much have this pole straight up and down both directions right now. And if you look at this transducer head on, they're sitting, each element is sitting pretty level across. And that's the reason that I did the 5 degree tilt this way. Because without it, they were kind of skewed up a little bit like that. And I was worried it was going to throw the image off. So I figured if I'm building it, I might as well correct it. Hey, Millie, it's my bulldog. Like I said, that's what I meant by to play with, to get the angles right in my earlier video. That's what I was talking about. I had to tilt it down just a hair to straighten these 3 elements. So they, when this pole was vertical, they're on a true horizontal plane. So when you scan around, it doesn't skew the image this way or that way. And that holds true even when you tilt this to adjust the angle of it, it still keeps that horizontal plane. So that's basically what I was talking about with the 4 or 5 degree angle on the mount right here. Now, as far as setting this mount, the way I like to do it is to set it so when it's in the up position like this, it's already in forward mode. This is the best thing about this mount is I have it in forward mode right now, and I have a mark up top on my cap indexing where this is looking. Then all you got to do is basically fold it down like this to go to perspective mode, and then you turn it like so, and I have a second mark up top with a P beside it for perspective, showing where it's looking when it's tilted in this view. And that's the best thing about this design here is you never really have to rotate the transducer this way unless you want to change from forward scan to down scan. And like I said in my other video, I rarely use down scan. I'm almost always in forward scan because I'm trying to look out and scan structure to find fish, basically, is what I'm using it for. And if I'm on a flat and want to fish, all I got to do is just swivel it right down like that, turn it to my other indexing mark, adjust my angle here, you know, based on the depth of the water that I'm in. And, you know, if I'm in 1 foot of water, I'm going to have it set almost flat. You know, if I'm in 20, 25 feet of water, I'm going to angle it down a little bit like that to scan it closer to what Garmin suggests, about 12 degrees or so. Anyway, that's pretty much why I have the angle on here, and also how I like to set it once again. So when you just swing it up, it's already in forward mode. All right, y'all, just show you what I was talking about up top here. Basically, here's the 2 marks. Right now I have it in perspective mode. So this is the mark that I have lined up with the index mark for the center transducer for perspective mode. And then all I have to do is reach down right here, fold this up like so. It's already in forward position. And then I just rotate my indexing mark from P to F, and that indicates which way the forward scan is looking. That simple. Well, folks, that's pretty much it. Another quick build video for you. And it's basically just bending a U out of flat aluminum stock to fit whatever mounting solution you have or pipe. Drill a hole in the bottom here for the transducer to go through and to mount to. That's pretty much it. It solved the issue with the excessive force of trolling with the arm, especially in forward mode. Because I tell you what, this arm here, you know, being attached with this sticking out so far away from this pole put a lot of force on it to the point where it was unusable, honestly. Especially if I had the big motor on my boat running, it just didn't work. And if you're buying these 3D printed ones and you're trying to motor along with them, you're going to snap them right off, I can tell you that. Other than that, it's pretty much just 1/4 20 stainless nuts, 1/4 20 by 2-inch bolt or screw. I like the little screw heads because they're nice and smooth, basically. The nylon washer, which goes on the bolt like that, it actually goes through the inside of the mount into the transducer with the stock rubber washer. That's it. It may be possible to make these bends, you know, on this thing without the torch. I'm not sure if it is or not. I'd like to heat it. Since I had this around, honestly, this one torch I've had for like 8 years. I have started so many fires and bonfires and stuff with this. It's just a good thing to have around. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. I'll try to answer them. I try to be as thorough as I can to kind of limit them, but I don't mind. Just be patient with me in responding. Sometimes I'm busy. Other than that, try it out. Get out and shop, build something, get out and fish, have a good time. Like, subscribe to the video if it helped you, and I don't know, that's it. Peace out. See you next video.